Hi kids. Today we're going to be talking about fermentation's dirty little secret, sanitation. Now, immediately we must distinguish between three different words that are sometimes used interchangeably but are not supposed to be used interchangeably. Cleaning, sanitation, and sterilization. Cleaning refers to the removal of dirt and other large objects. Sanitation refers to the removal of microorganisms and bacteria. Sterilization then is sanitation 100%. It is the complete removal of those microorganisms. In home winemaking and home mead making, we are not concerned with sterilization. That's left for the hospital. We are only concerned with cleaning and with sanitizing. And the order here is obviously clean first and then sanitize. So it is a two-step procedure. Because you see, there are a number of microorganisms and bacteria that, if not removed from your must prior to fermentation, will ruin or at least significantly negatively impact. That was two adverbs in a row. It will negatively impact your wine significantly. An example would be acetobacters, which produce acetic acid, which in large amounts creates vinegar. Nobody wants a wine that tastes like vinegar. Brettanomyces, which creates a funky off flavor. Sometimes homebrewers can utilize Brettanomyces well, but that's a really advanced technique. You generally do not want that in your wine. Thirdly would be mold-growing bacteria. Nobody wants mold in their wine. Now, quick aside, what do you do if you crack open that bucket and you see mold on top? What's the way to save your wine? You do nothing. You dump it out and you don't touch it. You don't try to skim off the top or siphon away some redeemable aspect of your wine. No, you throw it away because mold is toxic and we're not f***ing around with that. So if you have mold in your brew, you screwed up, admit your mistakes, throw it away, and try again. Cleaning and sanitation are what allow us to make sure that the microorganisms in our brews are the ones we want to be there, i.e. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Let me now quote from the Winemaker magazine. Washing is the process of removing organic and inorganic contaminants to a level of insignificance. Washing agents are designed to facilitate this process by breaking down, solubilizing, and dispersing contaminants into water so the contaminants can be washed away, which I found to be a surprisingly illuminating explanation of what cleaning amounts to. Now, I'm going to get hate for this, okay, but that's what else is new. When I clean, I don't use those specialized brewer cleaning soaps. I just use dish soap. When I'm cleaning out a bucket after fermenting with fruit and it's all grimy and dirty, I just get a sponge and soap and I clean it out. And you don't always have to clean every piece of equipment because often it's not dirty if you sanitize before and after using, but you do have to clean eventually some stuff, and I just use soap. Now, the reason they say don't use soap, especially scented soap, is that it leaves residue, and then if you have a wine fermenting in the bucket on that residue, it'll taste a little soapy after a while. Now, I have never once noticed that. I clean with the soap and then I wash it out several times because that is what I would be worried about, is getting a soapy flavor. So here, I think the best practice would be to use those specialized homebrewers soaps, things like Be Bright or PBW, powdered brewery wash. Those are specifically designed for the home brewer and their equipment. You should probably use that, but that, if I said that, that would really be do as I say, not as I do. So, as a result of researching for this video, I'm willing to admit that my process is not the best practice, and I'll probably buy one of those. Probably. So, there you go. That's how you clean. I don't feel the need to really delve into the details here of how to clean, because if you're watching this video, you're over 21. And if you're over 21, you should know how to clean. Moving on then to sanitation, how does one properly sanitize or remove those microorganisms and bacteria to an acceptable level? Well, you've got several options. Number one would be chlorine or bleach. You just dunk your stuff in bleach and that kills off most stuff. However, there are two reasons that this is not advisable. Number one, you have to wash it after bleaching it. You have to wash all your equipment in water after bleaching it, because bleach will kill you. So don't with that. And in the process of washing it, unless you have a ton of spring water that you're wasting and using to wash, you're using tap water. And tap water has all those microorganisms and bacteria, so that it just undoes all of the sanitation. If you sanitize and then wash with tap water, that defeats the purpose. The main drawback, though, of using bleach is that they can often leave behind a compound abbreviated TCA, which is usually described as a cork taint in wines. You don't want that. You don't want your wine to taste like cork. So I would not use bleach, and I don't use bleach. Second would be iodophor. This is an older sanitizing agent. It's an iodine-based sanitizer. The drawback here is that it will stain your equipment orange. So I'm not okay with that. I'm a little too OCD to have orange stains all over my stuff. So I just don't use it. Thirdly, you could combine about 2 ounces of potassium metabisulfite powder with a gallon of water to create an effective sanitizer. Now, this sanitizer would then have to be washed off. It's not a no-rinse solution. So again, same problem with chlorine. Unless you're using a ton of bottled water, which is really complicated, this isn't a great method to use. The best option, though, is my method. It's not just mine. Most people use this method, which is to use Star San Sanitizer. So your first step here, get a big bucket. The silver bucket of sanitation. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's funny though. Add 1 to 2 gallons of water to your bucket. For this, you can use tap water. Then you're going to add the Star San Sanitizer at a rate of 1/5 of an ounce per gallon of water to be used. So if you have 2 gallons, you'll use 2/5 of an ounce. And then you just pour that in and, stir it around with your hands. Then dunk all of your stuff into that bucket. Just leave it in there. And you want to let it soak in there for at least 30 seconds. It's best to do it for a total of 2 minutes. You can leave it in there longer, but 30 seconds to 2 minutes is the minimum amount of time it takes for the sanitizer to be effective and to kill off those buggies. So that's what you got to do. Then as you need the stuff throughout the winemaking process, you just take it out, rinse it off just a little bit, and then use it. If you're worried about getting sanitizer water into your must and that being somehow a problem, it's not. The compounds in Star San Sanitizer break down into stuff that your yeast can actually use, and it's flavorless, so there's no drawbacks. You don't need to fear the foam, as they say. Then wash out your stuff with hot water. If you don't rinse out the stuff first before reintroducing it to the bucket, the lifespan of your sanitizing liquid, its effectiveness will be very short because you're mixing back in wine or must or fruit stuff into the liquid. And then is it really still sanitizing well? Probably not. Then when your winemaking or racking or bottling session is all done, you take all of your stuff and rinse it off with hot water and then leave it out to dry and then pour out your sanitizer liquid. It's also helpful to have clean rags on hand during any part of the winemaking process to wipe stuff off, to clean up spills, that kind of thing. Now, what do you sanitize? Everything. Everything. Carboys, buckets, hydrometer, graduated cylinder, jars, bowls, spoons, auto siphon, and your hands. You got to sanitize all that stuff. Because anything, the rule of thumb is that if it comes into contact with your must or your wine, it must be sanitized. Okay? Some tips and tricks that I've compiled from my many decades of winemaking. Fill a spray bottle with sanitizer liquid for easy use. If you just have to take a gravity reading, for example, you don't want to have to waste a big bucket of sanitizing liquid to make that reading happen. Instead, you can pull out your spray bottle and just spritz your equipment down. Spritz out the, I'm losing my edge. I am no longer able to articulate simple concepts. And that's just a much easier and more effective and efficient way to clean your stuff sometimes. Now, for a whole enterprise of like making, say, banana wine, and you have a lot of different stuff you're using, go with the bucket route. But for quick and easy stuff, use a spray bottle. 2, don't use old or suspicious looking fruit. You can't sanitize that stuff away. I know some people on YouTube will spray their fruit with sanitizer. I'm not going to do that. And it wouldn't actually prove effective if you have mold or other rotten or decaying parts to your fruit. So just use good fruit. Thirdly, don't leave your equipment soaking in Star San sanitizer overnight. I have done that when I've been lazy. Doing so will gradually erode your equipment. I've done it with like plastic tubing, for example, and it comes out really slimy, and it's a little sus than using it next time. I don't know if I'm getting plastic into stuff. So don't leave it soaking in there, okay? When you're done making wine, or you're done racking, or you're done bottling, be diligent and clean everything off and dry it off. That's just the best way. Finally, if you're working with any kind of sanitizer or chemicals, don't mix different chemicals. You could kill yourself. So just be very cautious with that. Just pick one method and use it according to package directions. Don't veer off here. Okay, this is not a time for experimenting and being a chemist. You could die. Alrighty, thanks for watching, kids. I hope this was illuminating and helpful. If you knew nothing about sanitation, now you know some stuff. And if you knew a lot about sanitation, I don't think I said anything new, but I hope it was helpful. So thanks for watching. Watch every video I've ever published, and have a wonderful day.